Okay, let's jump right into this deep dive.
Let's do it.
Our mission today is to really unpack this argument that modern market economics isn't just flawed, but inherently unstable and unsustainable.
Right. And the source material breaks it down into two big ideas. First, why the system fails, what it calls the anti-economy.
And then the really interesting part, a design for a workable alternative.
I think the place to start is with the core contradiction the source points out. It's so simple.
Go on.
Well, think about the word economy. Its root is about managing a household. And in your home, you're rewarded for being efficient, for conserving resources.
Well, of course, you don't leave the lights on or the water running.
Exactly. But the macroeconomy, the big system we all live in, is driven by the exact opposite. Perpetual consumption and growth. It has to keep accelerating.
So it requires, like, perpetual gas, as the source puts it. And that means efficiency. This idea of doing more with less, they call it ephemeralization.
Which should be a good thing.
It should be, but it actually becomes a problem for the system.
It inhibits its internal success, yeah. Because if you make things that last forever or use way fewer resources, transactions plummet. The system literally starves.
It has to actively move against conservation to survive.
And that required growth. That's what sets up the first destructive loop. Forced cyclical consumption. And, waste.
The analogy they use is pretty striking. It's like one person digging a ditch and another person being paid to immediately fill it back in.
It creates work, sure. It generates purchasing power. But it's fundamentally just churning for the sake of churning, creating waste just to keep the machine running.
And that leads right to the second loop, which is about inequality. We tend to think of it as a policy failure or, skills gap.
But this research suggests it's just math. It's built into the mechanics of competitive trading.
What do you mean?
Well, physicists like Bocasan have modeled this, and they found that without some kind of intervention, money just naturally flows from the majority to a tiny minority.
So even if we all started with the same amount of money,
even then, the simple structural advantage of having more capital means that larger fortunes just mathematically absorb smaller ones over time. It's like a gravitational pull toward oligarchy.
So, okay, we have these huge structural flaws, but why can't we just regulate them away? I mean, that's what controls are for, right?
You'd think so, but that's the third loop, intervention sabotage. The vested interests, the people who are rewarded by this unstable system, they fight back. They use the very wealth generated by the system to block any meaningful change. It's a deep protectionist reaction.
So if the problem is structural, the solution has to be structural too.
It has to be. The sources lay out some common sense requirements for a new economy. First, it has to find a balance with the environment strategic resource management.
It has to be structurally non-competitive. It has to reduce hierarchy, not create it.
And this is the big one. It has to be focused on abundance.
Which is the opposite of the market.
Exactly. Market success requires scarcity to set a price. If something is abundant, like air, you can't really sell it. Abundance is a bug, not a feature.
So how do we build for abundance? The source talks about 5 transitional attributes. Things that exist now, but sort of fight against market logic. First is automation.
Right. We accelerate it. We lean into labor-saving tech to move away from this labor-for-income model that traps everyone.
Second is access over ownership.
Instead of everyone owning a car that sits unused most of the day, we move to shared on-demand transport services. It's just so much less wasteful.
Third, open source. All industrial and scientific knowledge becomes a collaborative commons.
You get rid of the artificial scarcity of intellectual property.
Fourth is localization, making as much as we can locally. I was shocked to read that the average American food plate travels, 2,000 miles?
It's incredibly inefficient. Localization streamlines that.
And finally, networked digital feedback. Using things like the Internet of Things to manage the economy in real time, instead of just relying on slow, crude price signals.
So the strategy to get there isn't a top-down revolution. It's what they call persuasion by doing.
You build a parallel system from the ground up that just works better, and it deflates the old one.
You can see it in microforms already, like tool libraries or time banks. They operate outside of these market incentives.
And the next step is scaling that up with something like a non-competitive production collective.
Right. Imagine a community-funded vertical farm. People contribute labor. Maybe they get time bank credits for it, and then they get access to all the food produced.
So you're detaching the whole infrastructure from profit.
You are. And you start moving toward a zero marginal cost environment. Once the farm is built, the cost of growing one more head of lettuce is almost zero. Community and technology replace the need for a price tag.
The ultimate goal, then, is this transitional process. You use these expanding non-market community networks to just transcend the old destructive system.
So here's the final thought for you to take away from all this. How much of the economic action you see in the world today, the jobs, the GDP, all of it, is actually based on perpetuating problems rather than truly solving them? Because actually solving them for good would mean the system as we know it would just collapse.